Welcome to Book Watch, the podcast where pages meet screens. I'm your host, Sarah-Daye. Each week, I'll be joined by amazing guests to dive deep into the world of adaptations, comparing beloved books with their cinematic counterparts. From faithful retellings to bold reimaginings, we'll break down what worked, what didn't, and what made each adaptation unforgettable. Whether you're a bookworm, a movie buff, or both, you are in the right place. So grab your bookmark, grab your popcorn, and let's watch some books. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Book Watch. This is part 2 of our Jurassic Park coverage. I have Chris here with me again for another week. Welcome back, Chris.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
And on our part 2 episode is when we cover the key plot points. Last week, we covered kind of the initial cultural impact of Jurassic Park, as well as the key characters and the cast. And now we're diving into the meat of the story. So I'm very excited to jump in here with you, Chris. So let's talk about the difference in the opening scenes first.
Yeah, that was definitely a quite different experience going in through the book and versus the movie. With those, we got the scenes with your girl being attacked on the beach by the little dinosaurs and the wondering whether it's a new form of lizard and all that eventually leads us to Grant, like you were saying last time. That's interesting. And then the babies being attacked is a very, very different experience and kind of dark in a different way than the film was. And that was definitely quite interesting. In the movie, we just get the visit to the raptor attack and then the visit to the amber mine. So.
Right. And it was interesting to see the amber mine, but we do kind of just jump right into the film with the raptor attack, whereas the book is much more gradual. We have all of the information about biotech and the legalities around it and how it's being monitored. And so we have all that backstory. And then, like you said, all of the backstory about the lizard, quote, and how that is being put into question. We do have a raptor attack in the book, but we're not there.
Right,
it's
we just
brought
see
into the hospital, and that's
stuff.
kind of like it's almost like a snowball effect where her camera was stolen, and then we get the little girl that comes in, and they take the samples from that, and that's they send that off to Grant, and that's where we meet Grant for the first time. But
I kind of wanted a little more follow up on the camera thing. I felt like that was a loose thread that never got answered. I'm like, did this lady just not look for her camera ever again? She didn't care what happened to it. She didn't look into the legality of that and who came to her. But
right,
it never gets answered. So let me know.
But it's interesting. I mean, and books are always going to be able to have a lot more context than a film.
True.
But it is interesting to see all of that and read all of that history leading into the introduction to the park, because the movie, we are kind of almost immediately introduced to the idea of the park.
Right. In the movies, you get to, this is the part where I was in Jurassic World, we have that attack where Grady is training his people and the one of them falls into the raptor pit. It almost mirrors that moment exactly. That's kind of what I was talking about last time. That's one of the scenes. It was almost an exact parallel to the between the two. I thought that was kind of interesting. Yes. They do that throughout those two movies, because that one was supposed to be basically this movie again in some ways. And they just
I know you said you haven't seen Camp Cretaceous, but there's also a scene where somebody falls into an area, and again mirrors that same theme there too.
It's an intense moment no matter where you are. So Raptors being as smart as they are, it gets intense.
Yes, it does. So okay, so that's the opening of the story. Then we are introduced to the park, and it's a little different again from book versus film, how Grant, or I should say why Grant and Ellie arrive and how they arrive and how they're introduced to the other players. And then the whole tour of the park is a little different. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on that. What did you like better? I think that it to adapt it from page to screen, I think they made the right call on things, but talk to me about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so when they meet with Grant, it's John Hammond that comes in, but before that, in that scene, you've got them digging up what is a adult raptor, which in the book it's a baby raptor they're pulling out of the ground, or they're excavating or seeing there, and so that was an interesting difference there. When I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I mean, the big raptor is a bigger spectacle, I guess, and then he has his claw that he carries around with him the rest of the time that
Yes.
kind of points to him being the raptor guy, like digs up raptor bones. And later on we see that drop, and that's a big moment for him when he drops it and decides, well, dinosaurs are around now, I got other things to worry about. And
Mm.
then yeah, with Hammond coming and picking him up versus the lawyer, I was like, okay, I guess that's a little more personal, a little more of him inviting him to this big spectacle. And I liked, and he gave us that look at Hammond's personality and the way his bubbliness and his joy for this park. It made
Right,
you want to
exactly.
go.
That's the first look into the fact that this is not going to be the same character from the book. Like he's the one that went and welcomed them to Jurassic Park. He wanted to invite them personally, and he already knew it
Right.
was a celebration, and he wants to fund their research for the next 3 years. So, first look into the difference in character of John Hammond, which I really liked. But
Yeah,
I'm
it was
partial
fun.
to film Hammond.
And then with the tour starting, I mean, they in the book the tour was less, I think, less polished. I felt like they talked about the entrance doors when they get to that and all those things being like a wooden rough sign in the book, whereas in the movie we have those the ones that are so iconic now, the big giant gate, welcome to Jurassic Park, and all that. So they had the moments that were not necessary to have be exactly the same, but gave a different feel when you're watching it versus when you're reading it. And
One thing I noticed when I was trying to think of ideas to make a reel for Instagram for this episode, comparing page to screen, was the welcome to Jurassic Park. And Hammond says that in the film. And I feel like that's a very iconic piece of the film.
oh yeah,
It does not say that in the book. And the only welcome to Jurassic Park you get is them reading the sign, welcome to Jurassic Park. So it was a
and they
bit of
said
a
it sounded like it was just written out with
yes,
yeah,
to not have somebody say welcome and make it this big thing. And, I think in the film they had just seen the dinosaurs for the first time, and that's when he's like, welcome to Jurassic Park. And it's just this very emotional moment that we don't get in the book.
right. And the movie has the moment of well, the T-Rex we've clocked going 65, and you have a T-Rex? What? Say that again? We have a T-Rex, and he's just so excited about everything he's got.
Yes.
And I thought that was a fun moment.
And I don't know in the film if they say this, but in the books they do reference that they have 15 different animals in the park. I don't know that the
Yeah, I think
film.
the film did not. I don't think the book was much more specific about which dinosaurs they had and how many. Like the whole counting the dinosaurs was a big thing in the book, and the counting of the eggs in the end. And whereas I don't think they ever talked about we have to scan the park for the number of animals in the movie. That was never a part of the movie experience.
Right. Which was a really interesting part of the book was the scanning. And again, going back to how Grant was there almost on his own research mission
Right.
as a part in the book. And that was one of the things that he was like, I like just having this underlying mystery and trying to figure out how these compies got off the island throughout, like
Right.
that thread that carries on throughout the book, which was not in the film.
And then tracking down the nests and having to and seeing how the dinosaurs have learned to, or are acting while they're alive, and versus the bones you can't tell anything from in certain
Right.
areas.
And they do see the nest in the movie. And he does comment on, how it's the frog DNA where they're able to breed and he sees the nests. So they do kind of keep those little Easter eggs from the books throughout the
Mhm.
film, but that it's not a plot point like it is in the book for Grant's character.
Oh, and we missed a big character in the last episode, Mr. DNA.
Oh, you're right. Do you
He's
watch Elementary?
I know I haven't, but I've
Okay. They have a Halloween episode and one of the teachers dresses up as Mr. DNA. And I
oh
think another teacher dresses up as the mosquito in the amber. And it's just
that's
funny.
fun.
Nobody understands who they are. So it just reminded me of that. But yes, of course, Mr. DNA.
that video experience was fun. Like the idea of the way you can explain this stuff when it's a visual medium versus being done in a book where you just have to hear it. It was cool to have them going through that little experience, like you're at Disneyland
Yes.
watching a show, and then they decide to stop it to go talk to Dr. Wu.
Dr.
But
Wu.
yeah, the fact that they just throw out the frog DNA thing without us having to explore. We're not telling you which things are in it. Did you use frog DNA? Was the book way of him having to ask. And that in that case, they just threw it out there in the video, and that was fine. So, but explaining how
Yes.
DNA is done and all that through the video was a good medium, I think.
Yeah, and then another change on the tour is them like going on an actual tour of the dinosaurs and them not being around. And then Dr. Malcolm's like, is there going to be any animals on this
Actual
tour or
dinosaurs.
not?
Yeah.
And then they get to the Triceratops, and that's when they get out of the car. And that scene does happen in the book where she tries to figure out what's wrong. And I really liked that was very similar from page to screen.
I think the vet was a bigger character in the book than he was in the movie. He was just kind of a random worker in the movie, whereas he was more integral to like almost a love interest to Ellie in some ways. Like they talk about how she has that effect on people.
I know. And yes, I agree. But I don't remember Malcolm being as interested in Ellie in the book as he is in the film. And I don't know that Grant and Ellie were established as a couple in the book,
They
and they
aren't a
sort
couple in
of
the book.
are in
They talk
the
about her
movie.
being they talk about her being engaged in the book to somebody else, to some other
That's
doctor.
right. Yes,
Which we do
that's
see in the
right.
second movie, I believe, or the
Yes.
third one.
Yeah. So it is nice to see the later installments of this franchise take, little Easter eggs from
Pull some of that
the
stuff
books.
forward, yeah.
Yes. Of course, the girl on the beach scene, which is in this book, is not in this film, but it is the opening to The Lost World.
Right. I forgot they used that. And then in The Lost World, we see more about Malcolm's family life and his dating life. He mentions it in the movie here about how he's always looking for the future Mrs. Malcolm or Mrs. X Malcolm. And
Right.
in the Lost World, we see him having a kid, which was more.
Yes.
I almost wish they'd mentioned that he was a father in this because he was trying. He was another one of those people that was kind of pushing Grant to be this father figure to these kids again, just like Ellie.
Have you read Lost World, the book?
I have. I read both of them at the end of last year, just as I was kind of getting ready for the podcast and starting to read them. I just went ahead and read both of them because I like the guy who reads them too. The narrator on Audible.
Too. Yes,
he's one of my favorite readers. So I went ahead and read through them both, and they were really fun.
I'm going to pull that up just so we can credit him real quick, unless you know it off the top of your head.
Normally I would, but I'm totally blanking it. He reads all the Clive Cussler books that my dad got me interested in a long time ago, and so I've followed him on that stuff for a long time.
The audiobook is narrated by Scott Brick.
That's him.
At least mine was.
Yep, that's the one.
Okay. So, yes, I just wanted to give the audiobook because I also listen to audiobooks. That's how I read this book, and I do agree he is a great narrator. So, credit where credit is due. The Lost World. Is the girl his daughter in the book? Is that all the same?
Well, we don't see his daughter in this at all. He mentions that he's always looking for another wife, but he doesn't mention having a daughter at all. And I wish they had, because it would have established his character as having more stakes, I feel like.
In The Lost World, is it similar to the movie?
Yes, the book. Oh yeah, that's what you mean. Okay. Yeah, he's got the daughter in the book as well. And I think she might actually be one of the people that goes, like, hides away and comes with them instead of being. Oh, I got to watch the film again. I didn't pay much attention to that one yet, but
she does. She hides away and comes with him, his daughter.
Yeah. So I think that's the same thing in the book.
He's going to the island because Sarah is there. No, is Sarah the daughter or is Sarah the girlfriend?
I don't remember, but I'm sure we'll.
Okay.
The Lost World will be another episode, I'm sure, at some point.
Another day.
We'll refresh ourselves first.
Right. But yes, to go back to your point, it would have been nice for him to have some sort of line. I was just curious if I don't think Michael Crichton knew at the time that was the route he was going to go because, like we mentioned in our last episode, he is presumed dead at the end. Like they literally talk about a funeral for him. So I don't think he expected to bring that character back.
He had no intentions of writing a sequel for originally, so it was going to be a standalone.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So had he known, or well, when did The Lost World come out? Because they could have added a
97?
line. So no, it was after the movie too. I wonder if that's why he wrote the sequel.
Yeah, let me check. Lost World, the film came out in 97. Let's see. Book was 95.
So still after the film. So
yeah.
So they didn't know, he had no idea that was going to be the character arc for Malcolm, but I agree with you. It would have been nice to have some sort of line there.
Well, and if they'd killed Malcolm off, we wouldn't have had all these revisits to Malcolm in the newer movies either, of him being this chaos person talking to the courts and all that, and the Jurassic World stuff, which really brings the world together, I feel like, in a lot of ways to those ones.
Yes, definitely. I really do. I love a broad universe and continuity, and that's why I like Marvel so much.
Mm-hmm.
So it is nice to see those little ties coming through from film to film.
MCU cast Matt's deep, hot, wet continuity, I think he calls it, right?
Yes. Something along those lines, right? And Chris is talking about the MCU cast, which is a podcast. This is how we met, you and I. So if you're looking for a Marvel podcast, they are a great option for you. But back to Jurassic Park. After the tour kind of wraps up, we kind of get into the main part of the story, and that is when Nedry kind of pulls his stunt, and he has met with the other character earlier. He's gotten his can of shaving cream, and that is where he's stealing the eggs. So now he has started his plan, and he's going to go steal the eggs, and that's where everything just kind of breaks down because he gets attacked and dies.
Because he didn't plan for the eventualities of chaos theory, that something will go wrong.
Right. And that is the storm that comes, and he gets off track, and then he runs into this dinosaur, and that's the end of Nedry there. But how do you feel about the way they portrayed this whole storyline in the film?
So in the film, when he's driving down the road in the Jeep, one of the things I see that is different is he runs into the sign that points to the water, to the boat dock, and it's got a little arrow on it that points one way, but it can be twisted around one way or the other, so he has no idea, so he just kind of spins it, and it's supposed to take him to things. So he starts going the wrong way from that, and which we don't really in the book get any indication of what causes him to go the wrong way in the book, but I thought that was kind of funny that there was just a sign that he hit with his car that caused the whole reason he didn't make it. I liked the way they did in the movie. I think him getting off track and all that, and having just this panic attack of the people at the beach planning to leave before he can get there, and running out of time because he didn't give himself enough time. It's fun, and it shows you kind of that not everything goes the way you want when you're trying to do the wrong thing or the right thing.
Right. Yes. I do like the visual of everything in this scene, and the storm and the lightning causes that level of anxiety in the film, and then you can see his acting, of course, is causing all this anxiety, and it's really, this is the turning point. This is the reason why everything is going to happen for the rest of the film. And what I really, really like is the visual of the shaving cream can, and therefore the eggs, or I guess DNA,
embryos.
But he's stealing the embryos, thank you, falling down that waterfall. And so basically he didn't even accomplish his mission, and he's created this crazy intense survival of all these characters, and he didn't even get right, and he didn't even finish the mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it fell down as he was getting back into the car, and so you're like, okay, now if you drive to the beach, you're just gonna show up with nothing. So you've ruined your whole mission now.
Yes, exactly. And I just really like that visual. And again, that's what a film can do that a book cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Just
but
really
in the book,
drive.
They did describe the brutal attack of the dinosaurs a little more in depth, because you can explain what's happening to them more, and not that it's just a tarry substance. It's actually a poison that's getting into his eyes, and they explained that if he'd had the antiviral, if he'd came back and washed his eyes
Right.
out with the antiviral, he would have been fine. But he was blinded by them, and then he was torn open, and it's very graphically described, and it's a lot
Yes.
of interesting descriptions that you don't get in the movie of what's happening to him.
Right. Yes. And we mentioned last time that it's a very brutal death scene. And when you say graphic, it's definitely very graphic. We won't get into the details on the podcast. We'll keep this PG-13. But it's rough. It's rough to read. I skipped through it my second read because I was like, yeah, I don't need to listen to that again. Same with the babies. So I'm like, yeah, I don't need to listen to the babies being eaten again. So yes, we agree that the film did a really great job portraying this particular storyline.
It's what they had options for. Yeah, they did a good job with it.
Yes. So because of this, the power is out and they have no way of getting it on. And because the power is out, the animals are breaking out. And that brings us to our next key plot point, which is the T-Rex escape, which is a really exciting read. I think that's in the last episode I mentioned, my mom was reading Jurassic Park in Key West and was scared a dinosaur was going to come out of the trees and get her, right? And I think this is the scene where when you're reading, I mean, the movie did a great job, but when you're reading this, it's really like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
Yeah, the book definitely had the suspense in that moment for sure, and the movie does do a good job with, you first see the goat that's now missing, and he's looking through the goggles and trying to figure out what's happening, and then you see the head finally coming into the shot.
First,
Oh my!
first, we get the thump.
Oh right, yeah,
He
yeah.
felt
The water.
the thump, and that's another iconic scene I think from the film.
Ooh.
Is that the water showing the vibrations
Tremors,
from
yeah.
yes. And then yes, the goat and then the head. And in the book he describes it. I really love to describe the description in the book because he's like, Tim looks over and he's like, he sees a tree and then he's like, this is not a tree. And then he zooms up and he sees the T-Rex head. And then they
Looking too
notice,
low.
yes. And that's when I really liked in the book the conversation over the walkies between Grant and Tim, where Grant is trying to stay calm but they get the situation. And keep in mind, in the film, of course, we can all see what's happening because we need to be able to see the film. But in the book,
So you didn't need
we
that as
can't
much.
see anything. Only Tim can see what's happening because he has the night vision goggles. And so Grant is trying to stay calm, being like, are you seeing, like, is this really what is happening? And he's not trying to say, is the T-Rex getting out, because he doesn't want to scare anybody.
Right.
But the book just does such a good job of creating that suspense. But the film does a really excellent job of creating a very exciting scene for the movie as well.
Absolutely. I think they nailed it on that. Like the way the wires break as he starts to put his claw down, ding, 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 separating, making room for him, and he comes into full scene. Yeah, it was. I'm sure in the '90s it would have given you nightmares and chills watching that happen.
Exactly. Yes. And again, we've already talked about how good the CGI and animatronics are. So, to be in the 90s and to see that and to see this giant T-Rex coming and breaking into this car, man, it must have been pretty intense.
Until about last year, I had that
nightmares.
same car, so I was driving one of those
Fun.
late '90s Explorers, and so I was like, "Ooh, there goes my car."
Oh no. Okay, so the T-Rex is one of the main baddies in Jurassic Park, but our another main baddie is the raptors. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on how the raptors are portrayed in the book and how they're portrayed in the film.
Yeah, in the book we see more of the same kind of dynamic where you've got this pack leader and the way they work together. In the movie, they talk about how they killed the other ones, like that. You had your alpha that killed the other a whole bunch of other ones, and it's just a few raptors that it worked with. I liked in the book seeing more of the baby raptors and the fact that we have one at the beginning that the kids get to hold and experience a baby raptor. And then we see one towards the end as well. It just added more nurturing effect to that the raptors also have that nurturing effect.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like how I do like how the Raptors and the T-Rex, and the Compies even. I just like how the dinosaurs are carried over from film to film,
Mhm.
and how they have their own personalities. I mean, we can't talk about a cast because they're CGI and animatronic, but I wish I had the names. I believe in the first one, at least, the Raptors were puppets, like a person was inside a
Oh,
raptor suit.
yeah, I think I've seen that, yeah,
And I wish that I had the names of those actors, but I will try to find that and put that in the show notes.
absolutely.
But yeah, the Raptors and the T-Rex are kind of the big main characters as far as the dinosaurs go.
In the book, the T-Rex, there's 2 of them. There's the adult, and then
Yes.
there's a younger juvenile that we see more of,
Okay,
that
bringing
the
it
movie
back to
didn't do.
Camp Cretaceous, they also have a mother-daughter
Mhm.
T-Rex. Now they in the book, I don't think they're like together. I think they're two different beings, but in Camp Cretaceous, they are more motherly towards the baby T-Rex.
Which is what we see in Lost World a little more so too. They have the family of T-Rexes in that
Yes.
book. So
Yes,
in
that's
this
right.
one, it seems like they must have been part of different breeding groups or something, and so they weren't as nurturing towards each other or
Right.
anything.
And the baby is the one that gets Ed Regis in the book, which
Right,
is Gennaro in the film.
right. And so, I mean, and then with the T-Rex escaping, we also have to mention that we do get the guy on the toilet getting eaten.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, and that's a
Ed
big
in the
moment.
book, yeah.
I
Yes.
think that's the toy I had as a kid. Was I had the big T
Ah,
Rex that would actually eat the. It might have been
no
from the
way.
second movie. It might have been the guy in the cage that goes through. But yeah, it was either that or the toilet guy. I think it was the toilet guy getting pushed through the body of this T Rex, and it would come out of the stomach. So I was
Oh
wishing I
my.
had the toy still, because I was like I was looking at reading these books. And I'm like, man, I wish I still had that. I looked it up, and it's worth a whole bunch of money now. I'm like, now I really wish I had that toy
I
still.
bet. Oh man. I can't remember if I had any Jurassic Park. I definitely liked them because, like I said, I know that I went to the theaters to see the third one, and that's because I had seen the first two.
Hmm.
But I don't remember if I had any like Jurassic Park toys. I must have. I should have asked my mom that too.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
So let's talk about the actual dinosaur breeding. We briefly mentioned it. And I think you even mentioned that it was more of a plot point in the book than it is the film. It's very briefly mentioned in the movie. It's just a part of that tour. We get Wu for just a little bit. He's also a bigger character in the book. Do you think we could have seen some more of the science, or do you think that they had just enough science in the film?
I think for the general audience, the amount of science they had explained what we needed to know in the movie, and so we didn't need to get super deep into the process of okay, what DNA do they use to split up here? That's why they just said frog DNA instead of amphibian DNA. I think that the a little bit of the eggs showing that yeah they are breeding here was enough for the movie. So for the book, yeah, it was really interesting to go back and hear all of what they were doing, um, the different proprietary ways they were breeding these characters. It really helped
Hmm.
deepen that
Yeah,
experience.
I think you're right, and I think having, like you mentioned, Mr. DNA, to really, well, he talks a lot, but it's really nice to the show not tell, and to have us go on that ride with the characters and have Mr. DNA explain what's happening, in a fun, like you said, amusement park style, really fit for the film. But I
Hammond.
do wish we had a little bit more of the background
Hmm.
knowledge that we have from the book.
I think Jurassic World does that more with the knowledge that like they explain a little more in the lab. They spend more time with that part of it when they're talking about the new dinosaurs and all that stuff. But the way that Hammond talks to himself in the beginning of the DNA,
Yes.
Mr. DNA stuff too is kind of funny. Ow, that hurt him, John. Well, it's all part of the
Yeah.
process.
And it just adds to the cuteness that the film character is, and like the
Right.
just the contrast between the just that he is that loving, he really is just fun and playful and just he really wanted this to work for the like dinosaur fans.
The park's his baby, and he thinks this is a really great
Yes.
idea. So he put
Yes.
invested everything into it.
He did. Oh, poor guy. Are there any other kind of points from book to film that you wanted to talk about, or any side stories from book that were left out that you wish you had seen?
I feel like the river scenes were a big part of the book that we miss out entirely of here. That whole experience of going down the river with the T-Rex following them, and the for Grant and the kids, it was really where we see them bond a little more so than just what we see of them walking through the field. And those scenes were in the book too. I liked the river and then the tunnel where they find the baby raptor and all that. I think it was a missing plot that didn't need to be there. They got there, but it was fun.
And I do bet I'm going to pull up the times because back in the 90s, films were not as long as they are now.
That's true.
Does it tell me? Oh, it was 2 hours and 7 minutes. But I was going to say in today's world, we probably could have gotten that scene because a two and a half hour movie is not uncommon. A 3-hour
True.
movie is not uncommon anymore. So
Apparently.
I think if it was today, I think we would have gotten that river scene.
That's fair. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it would have added or taken away from the book or from the movie all that much, but it was another fun moment of the book that gave you some more stakes as to what was happening around.
Right. I also think if it was made today, we would have a lot more corporate greed shown in the film.
That's true. The analogies would be a little more put into the film and more pressed out to the audience. Like, hey, look what's happening here. Remind you of anything? Oh.
Okay, so any other plot points that you want to talk about before we kind of get into our comparative analysis?
No, none of the other ones stuck out to me at this point. I think that was the biggest one that I felt like was missing. And like you said, the lab stuff was a little bigger in the book, but yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, tell me, which medium told the story better, or did both succeed in their own ways?
The book was better, but I do think they accomplished. I love the movie too, so I say the story was better in the book. The experience was good across both of them.
Yes, I do agree that both are good. I actually, and I don't know if this is because I grew up on the film, but I do think I like the film better. It also might be because I'm a wimp and it is a brutal book.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I tend to read a lot of more intense books, for different genres and things. So it was not a hugely problematic book for me, but and I think that some of those things add stakes to me as well. But I do think the movie did a good job with its portrayal.
Yeah, it really did. And the book is really good. So, listeners, if you haven't read the book and you have seen the film, definitely give the book a try because it's definitely worth a read.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to end our episode with our bookmarked moments. So, what we will do is you'll tell me what you liked best about the adaptation, what you really didn't like about the adaptation, and then what was the most memorable moment of the book or the film. So let's start with what did you like best about the adaptation?
I think that you can never quite get the effect of a T-Rex roaring unless you are watching the movie. So as far as the difference between the adaptation, what I liked best was getting to experience the thrill of a T-Rex roaring, of the different noises dinosaurs make. I think that was the best part. What about you?
That's a good one. It is iconic.
Oh yeah.
I think I really liked the role they gave to Ellie and how they kind of her role was a lot more robust in the film than it was in the book, and I'm glad they fleshed that out a little bit for her. And what was your least favorite aspect of the adaptation?
I think that the kids were my least favorite part of the whole adaptation. I mean, I didn't like them in the book either that much. They were almost a little too a little overdone, I feel like. But I mean, if I think about what it would be like to take an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old into a scary park and with monsters, it seems about right. But they took away from my experience a little bit in the way that they reacted to things and how Ellie in the book was, or I mean Ellie, but Lex was so whiny throughout some of the scenes. It just like, okay, yes, I get that you're an 8-year-old, but can we pay attention and listen for a few minutes here? Because it was very much insistent all the time in the book of something always. Yeah.
I think my least favorite part, I should have had this prepared beforehand. I know better. And I just had one in my head and it disappeared. Oh, yes. Okay. Muldoon. He lives in the book. He dies in the film. And I wish that he lived in the film because I do really like the character. And I think that Bob Peck did a really good job of playing that character. And I really
Yeah.
would have liked to see him survive the film. So that is my least favorite aspect, is that they changed that in the movie.
What?
Okay. What was your most memorable moment from the book or the film?
Most memorable moment. As soon as you say memorable, my memory wipes. I can't remember anything that I saw in the book or film, right? Now, that's just my ADD talking. No, I thought the book is interesting because it had Hammond's death, which was very poignant to you've got your guy that has everything. Now he's sitting he went for a walk and is on the compound after everything was back under control. He gets scared by the kids. They were in the control room and they hit the button that plays the artificial roar of the T-Rex, and he gets panicked and runs off the path and rolls down into a ditch and breaks his leg. And so he ends up like, well, I'm only a couple feet from my chateau, I'll be fine. And he just lays there and gets to experience throughout the time he's there. The compies come and just kind of look at him, and he's just eventually nobody comes looking for him. It's kind of it's an interesting look at humanity and the way that, you can be the richest guy in the room and you can still be the one that dies of exposure.
Nobody
basically
cares. Right.
Nobody cared nobody looked for him. So that was interesting. And I think that's one of my most memorable parts of the book.
Yeah, it was. I mean, not only is his character like it's so jarring to see the difference in character, and then to see his death played out that way, and you're just like, wow, like that. It was. I remember being very surprised by that the first time I read it. But my most memorable moment, I might be a bit of a comp out, but it is the music is just so iconic for this film.
I forgot to mention it, but I had that written down. That definitely
John
played
Williams.
through my head all last night.
John Williams is the composer, brilliant composer who is very well known for lots of very iconic sounds. But you really don't have the Jurassic Park film without the na 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 na. So yes, that is the most memorable. Yes, it really, really does. But not only the music. I mean, when you said the the T-Rex roar, also very iconic sound.
I was reading about how they made the T-Rex sound, and it was like a dog, a lion, like they combined all these animals into one big giant roar.
Down. Yeah. Yes, it's wild.
So even that is pretty cool audio tech stuff. And
yes, they really were ahead of their time. I know we talked a lot about CGI last time, but man, were they ahead of their time with this film.
Absolutely. There's actually a song by Weird Al that's about Jurassic Park that's actually kind of entertaining too, because he goes through the film, and at one point he says, at least it ain't the lawyer, so they can't all be that bad about the dinosaurs.
I will have to look that up after we're done recording here. But Chris, thank you so much for joining me for these 2 episodes to talk about Jurassic Park. It was a lot of fun, and I know we've already talked about the fact that you will come on again for a bonus episode when the new film comes out, so we can talk about that, and I'm very excited for that.
That'll be a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, listeners. Thank you for joining us for Jurassic Park. We'll see you next week. That's a wrap for today's episode of Book Watch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at Bookwatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah-Daye, on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the Bookwatch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/bookwatchlounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/bookwatchpodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.